Good morning, afternoon, in the middle of the day. This is Jan Cercone, and thank you for joining me here again today for these Living with Spirit webinars. Today's webinar is a very important topic for all of the people watching this. And I realized as I came on today, I can't see your pictures, but I do know that you're there, and I like to look and see all the beautiful, powerful women that are joining us for these seminars so that we can share this information together. So today is October 2, 2014, and the topic is Women Changing the World with Their Voices. This idea of showing up and saying the truth. And it's important to begin the truth with our own stories. So I have a very beautiful guest today, Mary Liu, who is doing very profound work. Again, beginning with herself, as we will be doing an interview today and hearing her very touching, poignant story of her life and how she has come to this topic of helping women release and speak their truth so that we can come out of shame, we can come out of separation, and be real with each other and deal with what is real, not the illusion, the falsity of society. So we have begun our recording. So I welcome people that will be coming in later and watching us, and I give you a warm welcome. I am, of course, Jan Cercone of Sound and Light Healing Arts, and I bring in initiatives in women's leadership, in events, sound and light and color events, and also health initiatives. I work very deeply with vibration in very many ways. So if you're here today, this topic must have attracted you on a very deep level. And I hear so often that women are wanting to speak their truth. They're having to speak their truth. It's almost as if there's all this energy coming up and they're hitting this manhole cover right here at their larynx. So it feels very, very important to be working with this topic. So I went ahead and made a little PowerPoint, and we will begin that in just a moment, but let's reflect again why you are here. You're probably feeling the need to speak your truth in intimate relationships. You are on your spiritual path. You are an entrepreneurial woman, and you are moving out into the world. And you need support from your home and your family to understand what is driving this beautiful, deep inner mechanism. And sometimes we don't even know, but we know it is our truth, and we must speak it as clearly and compassionately and calmly as possible as we move forward. And you're probably also recognizing that there is a culmination or an alignment of many women coming to the same place that we must speak our truth, and we must come together and do it in safe places where we can expand and be in our truth. So I'm going to do that technology thing now, and I'm going to move to the share screen, and let's see how we can do this PowerPoint together here. Place. So again, welcome to Women's Voices Changing the World with our special guest, Mary Liu, who will be with us momentarily. Why you and why now? The earth has been missing the energy or vibration of the feminine. It has been skewed to the masculine. The masculine energy is about time, focus, catching the deer, winning, even predatory behavior, and essentially controlling. All of these factors are healthy, but they must be in balance with the feminine. So we are working with this webinar series of Living with Spirit with the Feminine to come back to our feeling nature so we can nurture, connect, and hold that beautiful space of the feminine and place, which is home, the space, our planet in space. And did you know that our voices hold the new vibration? As you wake up and you speak and you are aligned with your intuition, our hearts, our story, our authenticity, it brings a sword of truth to cut through any deception, pretend, protection, and it gives everyone the freedom to be who they are. Doesn't it feel good? Just imagine that you're in a Halloween party and everybody's wearing all these wild costumes and masks, and you're not sure who they are, and their voices are a little distorted. And the minute they take off their costumes and their mask, and it's your old friends or your family, now I feel safe. That is the human nervous system. When you are around a woman or a person who is masking her voice, you don't feel quite safe and you withhold, and nobody gets to meet each other and actually enjoy the party of relationship. How I came upon this path very powerfully after my divorce 10 years ago is I began studying the path of the divine feminine, and I was thrilled and excited to see this beautiful image of the divine feminine, the woman in the forefront here. And this could be any of the archetype, Mother Mary, Mary Magdalene. It is the woman who is illumined by spirit in her own voice of truth. And who I see behind her is the daughter. And look how she is veiled. And I do feel that we women are like daughters. The ancient women knew how to speak their truth, and we are a new generation. And it is our time to essentially and literally take the veils off of our voice. Let our voice be sounded around the world. It's the end of pretend. When the truth is revealed, we breathe deeper, we trust ourselves, we trust each other, our thoughts, our feelings, and words are in alignment, and we can lead with power. So just take a look at this. This is a very, very, very powerful thing. When we women can trust each other, watch each other's back, no competition, we can be ourselves in these small circles of intimate, empowering places. This will give us the authority and the magnetism and the inner strength to lead with our natural power, not forced masculine power. I love this. I understand this is from Burning Man, but here we are. We're in our naked truth, standing, each of us, in our own power, and yet still naked and transparent. And then we are free to create from our deepest, most unique, fabulous, passionate place. I love this. We can repattern the world with a new vibration. And I love this. This is actually a pink crystal that Kirby Seed brought to my Song and Spirit Center, and he lit it up with red. But when I look at this, I see the rainbow colors. I see that red and the pink, and this is love. Did you know when your heart chakra opens to love, for the very first time, your entire aura turns pink and red and just these luscious colors of a deep, deep rose red. So this is the feminine energy circulating a new blood, a new energy, a new vibration through the earth. And this just gives me a great joy and a passion to get up and to do what I do. So a new world based on the principle of truth. It begins with you. With truth comes transparency. When someone is transparent, you trust them. And you can allow them their vulnerability and honor their unique path. I read one time that each human is walking a difficult path of courage. If we could only see behind their mask and their shield that protects their vulnerability. So we will be able to create a world of caring and sharing and peace through this feminine essence. So the truth is, we cannot hold the truth in any longer. It's funny, women around the world, they seem to find me, especially since I developed this new voice release process. And I have 2 YouTubes on this. You can just probably Google it, voice release with Jan Cercone. But it does seem that the world is mandating that we speak our truth first as individuals, and then to reset the social structures. I think, I'll think of her name, it was the famous archaeologist, never underestimate, or Marianne Williamson, the power of one committed individual to absolutely change the world. And it is through the vibration of truth aligned with a higher creator's truth that just kind of shakes up everything, and everyone in the room looks at each other and they're dumbfounded like, oh my God, that is the truth. It takes the entire facade, the veil away, and everyone suddenly can relax. It's like the emperor's new clothes where the child said, hey, wait a minute, the emperor's naked, and all the adults could say, oh, thank God we don't have to pretend anymore. So your voice holds the key. I love this. She is clothed in strength and dignity, and she laughs without fear of the future. Truly, it is only fear that keeps us hesitant, not moving forward, feeling stuck, and sometimes feeling like we could almost explode. So why do we have all this fear? We have this fear. It's in our cellular memory. It actually goes through the lineage. I had an Irish grandmother and an Irish great-grandmother, and they were taught that they weren't worth much. There was a worthlessness. They would feed the family and then sit at the edge of the table, and if there wasn't enough food, the mom would eat the least food and she would work hard all day. And this was also kept in place by a patriarchal, authoritarian church in a social structure. So when I went to Ireland, I did my best to acknowledge the cellular memory and some of the beliefs that I held that were against my modern thinking, but when it came right down to it, the basic cellular memory, because it is a root vibration in your being, even overrides our new feministic thinking. And then it's our brain programming from childhood. Did our mother have self-esteem? Did our mother do her work full of passion out in the world? Was she a 50s housewife? All of these make a very big difference. Now the next one, it's in our schools and government, and I don't know about you, but if you're on this team of women speaking their truth to change the world, I had more trouble in school. And in fact, right on my report card, it would say, she whispers, she talks in class. And one day in kindergarten, the teacher went over to the piano and said, well, now we're going to all come over and sing. And I thought, wait a minute, everybody's having fun doing this. So I said, raise your hand if you want to go with the teacher. The rest of you come with me and we'll still play blocks. Well, obviously, I got on the list, and every day she'd say, I'm going to call your mother. And I had to face a mirror outside and look at myself as part of the punishment for speaking up. So that's just one small example. And our government puts the song Long, Long Lines, Comcast, Long, Long Lines, where it is difficult to say your truth and for it to be heard and for changes to be made. So there is risk, and this risk is very deep. It's in our cellular memory, and because we are mammalian beings with DNA that remembers perhaps time in your lineage where women were tortured for coming out and speaking their truth. All of this, and yet we must have the courage. We will have the courage, and we do have the courage, and we can do it together. These are my beautiful, beautiful, empowered friends. Christy Michaels down below, who is leading women's work and ceremony and speaking out, and beautiful Thea, who is an artist, and just beautiful, beautiful Carla. So in circles of women, first in our intimate friendships, can we be brave enough to share our stories, our pain, date rape, some of our most difficult feelings of abandonment and betrayal, our failures. It is this vulnerability to speak out that helps us love and be with each other, and to also give us permission to bear our own vulnerability. It's an allowance. Now, how about in our professional circles where everybody wants to be seen as very, very professional and popular? There are different ways that we can bring it forth honestly and still maintain our beautiful inner professional mentor, teacher, energetic field. And in fact, all of the webinar classes I've taken say that it's important to talk about all of your strong points, but also your struggle and succeed story as well. Nobody wants a Miss Perfect up there, because in fact, we are all in this together, and it's a pretend to be Miss Perfect. So if we take off our masks together and we relax and rejoice, we really can make great strides in this department. Now, while Mary Liu is on her way, I just received a little text. I'd like to talk to you about voice release. Voice release is something that I developed over this process of working with science and with women and singing, with my own history of, okay, here I'm going to be vulnerable, of severe anxiety. When I used to sing when I was 16 through my 20s, I, even now thinking about it, get anxious and would break out in a sweat. I would forget words. And what I realized is Spirit was preparing me actually to learn to be who I am and to sing without words, without melody, and to be the sound healer I am now. But I didn't know that at the time. So many, many tools I collected in helping women release their voice. So just let me give you a little background. Our voice amplifies our feelings, our history and belief. And did you know I can plot that on a computer and actually discern if you have issues with men of betrayal, if you worry about money, all of these things we can see in your voice. And now, because they're vibration, we can reprogram all of this scientifically and physically. So I'm going to give you a little teaser now. We're not going to actually do it, but beautiful Mary Liu, who is my guest today, has put together a workshop in Oakland called Speak Your Truth, and I will be one of the facilitator healers there, and we will go through this very powerful process. To open our mouths, let the rainbow, the vibrational totality of all of our beauty and passion come out. So in closing, we each have a sensitive, soft side that needs the understanding and love and caring of each of us so that we can be strong together by being vulnerable and caring for each other in this vulnerability. By hearing each other's stories, we heal each other. And this can only happen if we risk being real and sharing our story. So let's meet Mary Liu, our fabulous guest today, a woman who is stepping up to support women in their brave journey. Okay, so now I will stop the screen sharing and we'll come on and I will introduce Mary. Hi, Mary.
Hi.
Welcome. I'm going to tell people a little bit about you while they look at your beautiful smiling face.
Okay.
Mary Liu is an award-winning entrepreneur, a best-selling author, international speaker, trainer, facilitator, certified transformational dream coach. She is the founder of Truth for Transformation. She has been interviewed on numerous radio shows and appeared as a guest speaker on international television talk shows. Now, here is the heart and passion of why this woman does what she does. She shares her adversity story in hopes to inspire at least one person who is listening, to let them know they are not alone and to give them hope. Mary has helped hundreds of women tell their stories. Why? Because she has a story in her about a woman who hid behind a mask of shame for 46 years and knew she couldn't keep it inside of her. That there were other women out there who were going through what she went through, or had just come out of what she'd gone through, or women who might be living it now. When she got her story out, she felt for the first time she had her voice. So now she's committed to helping women get their story out, the story inside of their belly that needs to be told, so they too can be free of these shackles of shame that show up, as we just went through in the PowerPoint, perfectly in their relationships, in their business, and in their life, so they can start living a more joyful and fulfilling life in authenticity. Yay, Mary! Welcome.
Thank you, Jan, for having me on your show.
Oh, I am so thrilled, Mary Lou. And the timing is perfect. And at the end, we'll leave some time for you to talk about your upcoming projects and work and the beautiful conference, Speak Your Truth, that women can come through to.
Okay, great.
But first, I know I can just feel your story is very deep and poignant, and I'd like for you to tell your story. Please.
Sure. I'll tell part of my story, and then the story, the rest of the audience can actually attend the Speak Your Truth conference, and they can hear the entire story. Okay. You know, one thing I have to share was I missed your entire PowerPoint presentation that you just did. We had set up this system and tested everything, and the universe, you know, it just does things, and I lost all of my internet connection. So just as you were introducing me, I got my internet connection set up, but what I was thinking, wow, talk about not having a voice. I can't even be on this webinar.
And Mary, the universe met us, because I'm watching and I'm saying, where is Mary? Where is Mary? And I said, you know what, Jan, stay calm. We're all in it together. And
Yeah.
the women are with us. And you showed up on the last slide where it's.
I did. I was frantically on the phone with Comcast, like, I'm supposed to be on this webinar. And I said, it's all about having your voice, finding your voice, and I don't have one.
And we asked for it to work out perfect, and this is a perfect example that what our hearts desire, that magnetism will bring us what we need to be victorious, and the technology and the rest of the world, we breathe with it. So now, welcome, and thank you for being vulnerable to say that. I was a little unnerved too. I go, Jan, you can do this. She'll come. And I kept thinking, what am I going to do, interview myself?
And you know what? You have plenty of expertise in that area too. So, well, welcome everybody. And I look forward to just sharing the next 30 minutes with you, sharing about my story and why finding your voice is so important and why it was so important for me. So it starts with, you know, the day that I was born. My parents regretted the day I was born, actually, because I had two strikes against me. The first strike was I was born with a cleft palate and a cleft lip. I had a gaping hole right here in the front of my face here. And the other strike that I had against me was being born in a Chinese family. I was a girl. So for those of you that don't know, girls are not the preferred gender in a Chinese family. So growing up, I had low self-esteem. I had no confidence whatsoever, and not having very few friends as I was growing up. But even as I was going through school, going through elementary school, um, I really try to keep myself hidden. I didn't want people looking at me because when they did, they made fun of me. They're like, why is Mary's nose so crooked? They'll be doing things like this. And you can hear the snickering as a child when somebody's actually pointing you out and the kids are laughing at you. I had a hard time pronouncing my words because of my palate. I didn't have a formed palate. So saying certain words, even to this day as an adult, I really have to be conscious about how I pronounce the words, because in class, when the teacher asks you, who I want you to answer the question, and when certain answers require certain syllables, again, I couldn't do it. So it was very, very, I felt like growing up damaged, not only from what my mom was saying, because she had always said, Mary, you're so much trouble. You're so much trouble. So I started to believe that as I grew up and even in my adulthood, I believed I was so much trouble. And I lived my life trying to earn the love from my parents because they spoke Chinese, I spoke English. We never had a way to communicate. So not having a voice to communicate with your own parents, and then being the things that as I was growing up, what was happening at school, I couldn't tell my parents. I didn't even know how to explain something like that. And then also being molested 3 times as a child, again, squashing my voice, not telling my mom, not telling my sisters, not telling a single soul about what had happened. And it wasn't until I was 46 years old that I started doing personal development work. It was at that point I was at a large workshop, 500 people, strangers in the room, and the facilitator, we were talking about, what is your life purpose? What do you stand for? And just sharing what's coming up for you. And all of a sudden, I felt my hands go like this. And I'm thinking, I raised my hand and I'm thinking, I don't know what compelled me at that point to do it. I just did. And everybody around me had their hands up, but the facilitator on stage pointed at me. And at that point, I said to myself, oh my goodness, what did I just do? And keep in mind, I'm 46 years old. I'm still not speaking in front of people. I'm still pretty much going like this. And all of a sudden, the speaker's pointing at me. So I can't get out of it now because I have my hands up. So I rise up and I announce, I gather my thoughts and I announce for the very first time that I was born with a birth defect. And I said these words. My name is Mary Liu, and I've never spoken in front of a crowd before. And I just want to share that I was born with a birth defect, a cleft palate and a cleft lip. And this is the first time that I had ever uttered these words out loud. What came out of that was the empowerment of me taking ownership of who I was, accepting for the very first time who I was, and that it was such an empowering day just to be able to realize, wow, I held this for 46 years before even saying these words. And it is at that point, as I'm moving into what I do today is to really help women find their voice, be able to share either with your partner, with your friends, with your colleagues, with total strangers, 500 strangers, like if you want to do it the way I did it, but be able to share your voice, because having that power within yourself to share what's true for you, I don't believe anybody needs to wait 46 years to share something like that. That's one part of my story. The other part of my story, I'm not going to have time to go into, but it does relate to a very tragic experience when I was in my 20s. But the importance I want to give to the listeners here is to find that voice of yours. If you have a business, to be able to share your voice and making sure that your voice is heard. I've worked with so many women who say, well, I'm in a very male-dominated space. When we're in a meeting, they don't hear me. They don't hear me. They don't see me. They don't see me for the leadership that I can bring, for my opinion. And I help them through that. It's like, how can you go through life being present there physically, but not really being present, if you know what I mean? So, Jan, that's, my mission is to really empower women to find their voice and to really speak their truth.
More and more, we're understanding vibration and resonance. And we attract in exactly what we're needing to learn or experience through our voice. We know that scientifically. So you lived up to the age of 46, not being able to resonate and attract in and interact with the rest of the world in a free way. You were what I call the manhole cover over a woman's voice. Now, what was that? Inner, plunging, energetic, for that divine moment for you to forget everything and to have to stand up, because a lot of women might be standing on that platform. Was it like a divine, or was it like I have no choice? It was like I have nothing to lose. What brought you to standing up and doing that, throwing off the man cover?
I don't know if I can pinpoint what caused me, or I think it was just the divine intervention here saying, it's time. It's your time, Mary, to speak up. And that's why I say, I had my hands up, never thinking I would ever be called.
You felt safe.
Maybe that's what it was. I felt like, okay, everybody else. But even so, there was something. I'm not sure. You may have a better idea as to what actually happened. But I felt the energy around the people that were sharing. Yes. And I felt, actually, that's what it was. Everybody around me was sharing. They were sharing their most intimate secrets.
Mary,
and I felt that I was safe. I felt that I said, if I raise my hand, I will be held in a safe environment here to share my truth. And that's the reason I raised my hand. And when I got called, then it hit me that I couldn't go back. There was no going back at that point.
Mary, this is so perfect, because when you watch this, and the other people that just watched this, I laid out how in a small circle of other people being transparent and vulnerable gives us permission to let go. And so there was something that was my question. What allowed you to let go? To bring the veil off of your face and to see you in your authenticity and to be present and vulnerable so that people could see all of you and love you. When we see a woman like this, we actually don't feel safe around her. Yeah. Because we don't know what she's thinking. Yeah. But the minute she lets her tenderness and vulnerability out, what do we want to do? We want to reach out.
Right.
We want to say, I've experienced that too.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very feminine quality of nurturing that has been missing from the boardroom, our social structures, our bureaucracy, and even in homes of women have been masculinized. I'm not saying women shouldn't go out and work. We should all work. We should do the work that we enjoy and our passion. But in that moment, you said, I feel safe enough because other people created a container of safety. And this has led you into your work, creating containers of safety for women.
Yes.
So that leads me to question number 2.
Mm.
Your mission is to empower women to find their voice and speak their truth.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that important to you now? How is that working for you? And
Well, why that's so important for me now is I just turned 51, and I have 2.5 years ago, I had 2 very successful businesses. And 2.5 years ago, there was a calling for me saying, I'm not living into my purpose. And what is that bigger purpose? And I had always known it had something to do with my past, because I would not have gone through all of the adversities, all of the challenges and the struggles that I've gone through if there wasn't a purpose to that. And I was in search for 2.5 years. What is that? And I finally, August 2014, I had the download of exactly what it was. And that day that I had the download, I cried. I cried because I knew that I finally have found what my life's purpose was. The next thing that I did was I was shaking.
yes.
Because it was so profound about the vision and that I'm the one to carry out that vision was just overwhelming at that moment. But it was overwhelming, but it was also like finally, I get it. I get it. Because again, waiting 46 years to be able to share my truth, release my shame and my secrets, I mean, that was huge for me.
And no career counselor can give us these jobs. We are going through life.
Mm-hmm.
People are listening to this. We are coming with a bigger mission.
Mm-hmm.
And we are bringing certain archetype challenges for humans, archetypes. And we have this basket, and we go through and we master, we heal. I mean, profound tragedy, significant things. If I told you some of the things that I've been through, people say, oh my God.
Yeah.
And so we have our basket, and then we take those eggs, we make a souffle, we compost it, and we say, oh my God, I've been baking a cake and I needed all these ingredients. And in the fact that I could never sing on tune, I had severe singing anxiety. And my father would say, children should be seen and not heard. Go play on the freeway. I mean, even though he was kidding, and I was one of 8, and I always had impetigo on my face, which is a social infectious disease. I ran around barefoot. And I just remember thinking, do I have any importance or significance at all? And so these paths that we get from our sense of, most women I talk to, the messages that we got in our families are exactly what we contracted for, so we could pick up that egg and be full to compost and create our work now. So there's no blame, and we can't be ashamed, because even our parents, and my parents were decent, wonderful people. But when you said the messages that your mother gave you, part of us can say, oh yes, I needed that for the setup, to do this big creator's job, to unplug all the women's voices so we could heal the world. Still, there's a lot of pain in there. These messages that our mothers give us are so important. And the messages that we give each other as women, consciously, unconsciously, and through our voice, you are repatterning all of that now. So I would like to say one good thing. My mother, she was a good Catholic, very reserved, and a good girl. But I asked her one time, I said, Mom, what was that, when I was about 19, what was that big pile of books you were reading? She goes, I was reading Edgar Cayce books. And I mean, and she used to tell me when I was little, Jan, you can do whatever you put your mind to. I chose that. I chose that to live with. So, Mary, you touched upon that you had another severe tragedy. And since we're here speaking, and I feel like there's a little edge there, and people are thinking and wondering, and it may or may not feel right to share it, but this is a good, safe place to, because other women have probably held that archetype of loss, shame, blame. And so this is your interview, and we have 10 minutes to continue your story, please.
Okay. All right, great. Thank you for that. And thank you for sharing your story as well. And just hold on. Just wanted to frame that. So just imagine growing up with no confidence and whatsoever. So before I even had any kind of relationship with my parents, this is May 5th, 1983, I lost them. They were actually murdered on May 5th, 1983. I was 20 years old. So the whole shame and the secret that I held on for 30 years since their death was because the person that killed them was my 14-year-old younger brother. So how can I possibly, not even at that point, I had not shared about my own self-identity, in the room full of 500 people. I was still searching for who I was. I was still hiding behind that veil at that point. So when I met people, they had a tendency to ask about your family and your brothers and your sisters and your parents. And it became so painful for me to talk about it that I decided it was easier when they asked about my brothers and sisters, because we had 8 in the family. At the time, we had 8 in the family. That goes in a whole different story I'm not even going to get into now, with more secrets from my family. But it was easier for me to go around saying, I actually only have 4 brothers. I don't have 5 brothers, because it was safe for me to do that. And I never went into about my parents. Whenever anybody talked about my parents, I completely changed the subject. And I lived with that, with their death, and I had nightmares every single day for 30 years.
Oh, I can imagine.
It was really being able to deal with all of that. And at my own time, I was able to deal with a certain part of it. Now, my biggest breakthrough with dealing with that was the day that I finally forgave my brother. Keep in mind, he was 14 years old at the time, and part of the shame that I talk about was, how can I possibly tell them who did it, what happened, because heaven forbid, what would they think of me? And that is why I kept it a secret. Plus, it was so painful. So what I did was, in order to really be able to move on with my life, was, again, I was at a personal development course. There was an exercise that we went through. And it was during that exercise that I finally was able to forgive my brother. Now, for those listeners on the line, this is how I did it. I had huge, huge regret and guilt that maybe I could have done something to prevent it, number one. The regret came because before I was able to, as an adult, be able to have a relationship with my parents, I had lost them. So I never had the chance to say goodbye. And I kept thinking they never got to see.
It's okay. Take your time, Mary. These are very deep roots in human feelings, and we all hold these feelings to various degrees. And you're sharing something of such a depth. Just take your time. We're here.
So what I did was, it was the regret that they didn't get to see me get married.
Mhm.
It was the regret that they didn't get to see my two beautiful boys or to meet my husband, which I know my mom would have loved because he speaks Chinese and she does too.
Mhm.
So all I thought throughout the time period, the whole 30 years, was the regret, what I didn't get. And the way that I was able to forgive my brother was to realize, what did I have? The gratitude of what did I have in those 20 years with them? And not focusing on what I didn't have, but what did I have? What I did have was that I remember the times that my mother grew vegetables in our garden, in our backyard, in the middle of San Francisco, of all places, foggy city. And having that, because we grew up with no, very poor on food stamps and going to the food bank and so forth. But it was remembering her entrepreneurial spirit, being able to grow these vegetables in our backyard, going to Chinatown and me having to go with her to sell these vegetables. And everybody who came to us every single week as we sold these vegetables on the streets of San Francisco was to say, wow, these are the best vegetables, better than anything that you found in the store. So it was remembering those things that she was able to instill upon me and my being a serial entrepreneur that I focused on. And just the times that when our dad would bring us out to the theater on a Saturday with all the kids, and we would spend all day watching all of these Chinese movies and things like that. So it was at that point that I was able to finally forgive my brother. And talk about having a black cloud over your head.
Ah,
It lifted.
yeah.
And as soon as I came out of that process, I again spoke in front of 50 people who were in that process with me and shared for the first time what had happened. And again, it was a very empowering day because that was the day that I was able to really release that shame and release the secret. And through that process, I have been reaching out to various healers out there, being able to finally finding that inner peace with going through a family constellation process, going to somebody who does channeling so I can, in my higher self, be able to speak to my parents and to my brother's higher self. And the day that I actually went through the family constellation, I learned that there had been shame and secrets through my entire mom's line of
Yeah.
ancestors.
That's often how it is. It's a pattern.
Yeah, it's a pattern. And it was just shocking to hear. But you want to hear the biggest secret of all, Jan?
Yes, I do.
Was I had not told my adult kids about what had happened to their grandparents. And it wasn't until the day that I came back from that family constellation, I said to my husband, today is the day, because there had been many, many days that I wanted to tell them. But today was the day that I stopped the cycle of secrets in my family. And I sat my kids down and I explained to them what had happened. They had taken it very, very well, more better than I had ever thought they would.
That's
But it was that final day that I finally
yes.
found inner peace with everything in my past.
You
And
broke the cycle
I did. I
of
did.
of holding back the truth
Mm-hmm.
And you allowed the freedom. You sought the support all along. You used your voice as like a sword of truth.
Mm-hmm.
And the depth and the darkness of what you carried gives you the conviction, the strength, and the courage to create safe containers for not just the women you're working with, but the ripple. This is vibration. These are vibrational archetypes that you took on for not just the Chinese lineage, but for all women. Mary, it's humongous. This
Thank
has
you.
been the sweetest, deepest sharing time, and I wanted to leave you some time now to talk about the workshop coming up and
Mm-hmm.
any coaching programs you have and the different beautiful offerings. But because we went so deep, we're going to do something feminine. We're just going to stop and take a nice deep breath through our nose and out to our mouth. And we are going to bring a peaceful, appreciative blessing to Mary Liu now. Send her the love and appreciation to her heart for this path to that little girl. And let her vibrational vortexing through this be a blessing and rewarding for her as she moves forward with all of this healing and all of the courage that it took with deep, deep appreciations. Oh, that feels good, doesn't it?
Thank you for that. Thank you.
Do anything with our voices. So now take this time to speak to us about what you're doing next.
Okay, great. Thank you. So what I am doing in order to move my vision forward is I've created the first Speak Your Truth, a women's empowerment conference. It's being held November 1st and 2nd, 2014. It's going to be at the Waterfront Hotel at the Jack London Square in Oakland, California, which is just a jump away from San Francisco. So what I've done is I put a call out for speakers for women who want to share their adversity stories, who want to finally.
Oh my goodness. It looks like we've had another little technology blip. Oh, there you are,
There
Mary.
we are. Oh, I just lost you.
I was searching for the sheet about the conference so we could be a touch team and I could talk about it and you didn't. Please continue.
So what I did was I put out a call for speakers, for women who are ready to share their adversity stories about shame and secrets that were holding them back, just like myself. And to my surprise, over 200 women worldwide applied to share their stories. And that just blew me away. The women that were ready to share their story, and to the women that I touched with the mission that I want to accomplish. Very blessed for that. So this conference is 2 days with women sharing their adversity stories. But what's different about this is not only will you hear their stories in a TED-like talk, which is 20 minutes each, I brought in various healers and practitioners to do experiential exercises for these women to really to bring them into the resources that I reached out to for my own healing. And one of the people that I reached out to is Jan. You know, she heals with voice and the vibration of the voice and all of her expertise. So she's one person that I said, I would love for you to share your gift. How can these women who are ready to share their voice use do this? And so in between all of these great, amazing, inspirational speakers, we're going to have practitioners from all around the U.S. who are coming to this conference to share their gifts. So it is very much an experiential, transformational conference, and to be able to create that safe environment. It's for women, produced by women, so and I did have men who say, I want to be there. Unfortunately, this is for women this time around to really create that safe environment for you to not only unveil your mask, but to be able to, for you to share your truth in a very sacred environment held by your sisters. And the special that I'm offering right now for everybody is we have an early bird special. It's $197. That includes 2 days. Bring a girlfriend to share the experience with you for free. And it includes a beautiful, delicious lunch on both days. So an incredible value for those of you that would love to join us. The other bonus that I want to add is if you use and you put who referred you and you put Jan's name in there, I will be offering you a 30-minute session, coaching session with you in order for you to share your story. How can you, especially if you are a business owner, entrepreneur, how can you incorporate your story into your business to build your credibility and visibility? So I want to offer that to all the listeners in Jan's audience.
Oh,
So that's it.
Mary. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And do you also do personal coaching, and how can people contact you?
If anybody would like to do any kind of coaching, learn more about my coaching sessions, you can go to maryliuspeaker.com, maryliuspeaker.com, and you can fill in the form and just let me know that you would love to be able to connect with me to learn more about my coaching service. I offer a one-day intensive transformational session, and I also offer a 3-month coaching session with me. But again, we can have a conversation about, you know, how this may suit your needs. But let's have that conversation first, okay?
Oh, Mary, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
What a breadth of service and information and dedication. I'm so thrilled, and we will be making a YouTube, and we can share this with all the sisters around the world who are really looking to the Western women for them to be brave and for them to have this information and new vibration as well. Thank you, thank you, thank you for joining me here today. I so appreciate it. And I'm going to take this last minute or so just to tell our viewers a little bit about the work that I'm doing related to women's leadership. I've created a group called SOAR, Sounding Our Authentic Resonance. And we meet together 2 or 3 times a year. And I have been looking at an inn in southern France. And we are going to begin fundraising, and I'm going to take my coaching program, which is called Being Light, which helps a woman line in her physical vibration, connect to her spiritual source, be in correct relationships, and then fulfill her mission. I'm going to take this coaching program and have it be the cornerstone of the Voice of Truth Mystery School in southern France. So we're in January 1st, we begin our fundraising and our outreach, and I've been told through spirit and different beings that this school is already created, and we women will be teaching and moving through being certified and going out in 3s around the world to teach sustainable living, arts and healing arts, and women's leadership, and we will change the world through this initiative, through this school. Or if you'd like to work with me presently, I am just launching, as of yesterday, you can still get on board, my Being Light 3-month coaching program. You can find out about all of this at soundandlighthealingarts.com. We're all in this together, women. We're going to do it. We're going to shift this planet. Again, thank you, Mary Liu. And it's Liu, Mary Liu. Thank you, Mary Liu. Bye, everyone.
You know, one thing, Jan, that I forgot to mention was my website where they can actually purchase tickets.
Perfect.
So it's speakyourtruthconference.com. Speakyourtruthconference.
Perfect. And we'll see everyone there. Namaste. Thank you, Mary Liu. Bye-bye.